Got the garage cleared out pretty good. Cleaned up all the floor, took down the plastic, got it all blown out. Finished sandblasting everything. So now I'm gonna go back and use a DA sander on all the exterior panels to make sure. So this is all, I went through everything and sandblasted it to get all these small areas. Took a lot of time. I don't know, that must have been a drip of sweat or something that started this flash rust that, but that'll come off. And you can see where I started with the DA sander to get it 80 grit, some nice scratches, because the problem with the sandblasting is it's too aggressive to clean with a rag. It just catches on it. So with all the exterior panels, I want them really clean and make sure I can catch little spots that I might have missed. So they've already done this side with the 80 grit on the DA sander. So it gives it a nice uniform finish for the primer. And obviously this is all going to get cut out, but I need to get it so it won't rust. So I'll be doing the roof with the sander and the sides, any flat surfaces that I can get to. I'll just probably spray down real good all the interior spots and let it drip and air blow it off with the compressed air to get any sand out. It's not as critical on the inside as it is on the exterior surfaces, so that won't be too bad. Like I said, I just did this panel and it didn't take that long, so I can do the rest of the truck and then, you know, clean it, spray it down with wax and grease remover, dry it real good, and get a coat of epoxy primer on it. And then I can start doing the floor pans. Thinking I'm gonna will take this piece out. Kind of wasted my time cleaning it, but that way there I can actually lower the floor. If I gotta check the frame, maybe I can lower the floor and get so my seats will go a little lower, which would be nice. And then I can start working on the firewall and a new floor pan for it. So I think I'm gonna have to get more metal anyway, because that piece over there is all I got left. So that's not gonna be enough. So the hard part's, you know, that was pretty brutal doing all that sandblasting. So that's good to have that done. And now it's just you know, fitting and repairing rot, and I need to get the floor in and the firewall in so I can set it back down on the frame and roll it around, because I'm going to need to take it out for the winter and work on another project. So I need to at least get it so it won't rust. So that's the plan. Got a couple of good coats of epoxy primer on the body, all up inside, interior, and looks pretty good. Lots and lots of ripples and body work. The really weird part is the spot welds from the factory didn't have any body filler in them. So I guess that's how they looked right from the factory. I mean, when I stripped the paint, there was nothing there. So they must have had a process to spot weld that tried to, like, you know, keep them hidden a little bit maybe, or maybe they didn't care. So Obviously I didn't do the bed, that's coming out, but I did real heavy coats up under here where there was a lot of rust. So yeah, that's pretty bad, but we'll see if it, I'm not sure what I can do about that. Alright, so now it's time to start doing something with this floor. I have to at least get the body mounts on the pillars so I can set it on the frame and start doing a floor. Okay, I got both door jambs just tacked in place. Got that one done and that one lined up and tacked in. So it's already looking better. Now I can start rebuilding these A-pillars. I just could tack them in because who knows, they might be off. I gotta do, you know, double check measurements, maybe even put the doors on. So but I left myself a bunch of holes so I can spot weld from the back. But I mean, I gotta fix all this rot, so, but this will help me get things lined up because I have to fix these pillars so I can put the body mounts on, because they attach like right there where there's a hole, and so that'll set my elevation on the frame, and then I can, you know, redo this floor. So that's the plan. Made a little progress on the door jambs. Bunch of new metal replaced. So they're starting to take shape. There's a lot of excess here, but I wanted to make sure I had enough metal. The inner kick panels. I rebuilt this hinge section and bottoms of both of the door jamb areas. I got an opening for the fuse panel, is going to go inside there, and that's going to be the amp for the stereo, goes inside there. I might even be able to put speakers up there where the original vents were. I just use sheet metal screws. I know a lot of people like to use the Clecos, but I don't know. I like to be able to just screw it together. So it'll probably come like here, straight, and then angle up to meet the bottom of the floor, the firewall. So I think it's looking pretty good. But I got to do the rockers yet. And there's nothing to attach them to, so. But at least I got the front kind of identified where it needs to be. But I kind of really want to put the doors on. But I have to take the structure out, and so that I have good gaps around the doors, instead of welding all this in now and then finding out I could have moved it a little bit and saved myself a lot of body work. So I haven't quite figured out how to do that yet, but it's getting there slowly. Another handy tool is a cheap punch and flanger, because you can punch the holes instead of drilling them for all the spot welds. It makes it go a lot faster. Got the step plates mocked up with the drop-offs and the rocker panels, just to see where the body mounts are going to go and make sure that everything's lined up. So I put a piece of string across the flange on each of those drop-offs so that I can make sure they're going to be the proper distance from where the body mount's going to go right here. And they don't fit very well at all. I mean, that's just because, you know, like this drop off here, this distance is different than the one over there. It's like a 1/4 inch or even more shorter on this side. So I'm not really, you know, when you buy these aftermarket parts, it's just kind of like a rough guide, and you got to kind of make them fit. So, I mean, I've got them pretty square and set. I kind of just tack welded this one in here so it could set the, because this kind of sets the elevation, because I want to replace this piece here. I know that that is proper because the bolt holes matched where the old bolt holes were, and this is a pretty good, decent piece. It was pretty accurate reproduction, so that kind of sets the height for the step, and then the rocker sets the elevation on the bottom, and I made sure that that was straight with the rear of the bed part, bottom of the bed. So you kind of boxed in by the rocker and the door jamb. And I was going to put the doors on, but then I was like, well, I actually did take measurements and made notes before I tore it all apart. So I was able to compare a lot of those measurements, and they all look pretty good. So everything seems pretty square. The structure I put in there was put in before I cut a lot of it out, so it's pretty square, and I don't think I'll have too much trouble with the doors. I mean, they don't fit that great from the factory, so I'm going to have to make adjustments anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. So now I got all these pieces, and these were the body mounts that I bought, and I'm like, they don't really fit that well. So I made kind of reproduction pieces that I can weld together and make my own, and I know they're going to fit, and they have the correct dimensions. So I'll weld all this together and kind of replicate these a little bit more. I mean, these are all stamped, so there's a lot of angles and curves, so it'll be closer, but not quite. So that's where I'm at. The way I make the body mounts is I kind of get the side pieces tacked on a piece of metal so it keeps everything squared up, and then start tacking in the top strip, and as you go along you can kind of bend it and line it up and tack it until eventually you can get it all the way down and bend it up and around and tack it in place, and then go back and fully weld it. So it's not too hard. I should have just built them from scratch in the first place, but I think they're coming out pretty good. The steps are all temporarily screwed in, and the body mounts I finished, and they're screwed in. Rockers. So now they came out pretty level, and so they'll match up with the original mounting location of the body mounts on the frame. Took a few tries because the aftermarket parts don't really fit very good. So I had to keep adjusting things, that's why I like the screws, because I can put it in a new location and just re-screw it, and then just fill a little hole with weld. And when you tighten the screws, it really clamps everything together. So everything's pre-punched for holes for spot welds. So I should be able to do that next, and then the structure on here will all be pretty solid, and then I can move on to not sure, I might put it back on the frame and then work on a new floor pan, because it really needs to be on the truck to make sure that, you know, the new floor is going to fit where everything is going to not, you know, so it won't hit anything or be in the way. Plus I'm going to use that tunnel from the Mustang, so that needs to be in there. So that's where we're at. I think it's coming out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. It's a bunch of metal work, but I still have to fill in here and do the finish off all this area, but getting all this located was the most important thing, because that kind of squares up everything and squares up where the body mounts weld up inside, and where the floor height is, and the rocker panel down here. That's all pretty critical, so it's coming out pretty good.